Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for January 21st through 27th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 1 show, and I listened to 1 book. First this week I finished Hero by Perry Moore. This is a 2007 release about Tom, a boy whose father used to be a hero but was basically fired from that job. You find out through the book what went down, and after this debacle it was basically decided that people without superpowers were no longer allowed in the league. There are 2 things that Tom's father hates more than anything in the world: gay people and people with superpowers. And unfortunately for Tom, that means he has 2 secrets to hide from his dad. This story has elements of found family and really drove home that other people have hard things in their lives that they have to deal with. There's a ton of homophobia, which makes the protagonist rather isolated. As though there's no other queer person in his entire city. There is mention of a gay bar, and at points Tom does hover outside of it, but he is too scared of being outed. There's mystery, intrigue, and antiquated ways of talking about women that, if it were written nowadays, hopefully would be written differently. It's frustrating because part of me wants to celebrate how far we've come, and another part of me does not want to excuse shitty language and character choices because it was a different time. So queer superhero book, yay, shitty problematic things also exist. The other physical book I read this week was We're Going to Need More Wine by Gabrielle Union. This was recommended by my friend Paige, and I figured bring it on. This is a memoir, and I always find the stories of people who have completely different lives than me utterly fascinating. I didn't know much about Union going into this book, but her writing is funny and packs a very emotional punch when you're not expecting it. This book discusses race, privilege, and being a woman in various circumstances and intersectionalities. And instead of trying to sit here and pretend that my voice needs to be heard when talking about race or abuse, you should just go read this book. As for the show I watched this week, I finished my rewatch of Sherlock by watching season 4. This was also the week that I realized that the bloke that plays Mycroft is also the co-creator and co-writer, which is just so Mycroftian of him. I could watch this series over and over again and would obviously be excited if they decided to continue it, although at this point, they haven't. The discussions of human condition and watching John figure out the things that Sherlock doesn't explain are details that just drew me in. I believe I mentioned this the last time I watched series 4, but the last shot of the boys running out of Rathbone Place just made me so happy because Basil Rathbone was the actor who played Holmes in the 30s and 40s, and I just love little cinematic details like that. This week I listened to Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, which is the first in the Expanse series. This book is 21 hours long, and although I thought it was the first of a trilogy, there are currently 7 books in the series, and I think they're going for a total of 9. I don't really know if I'm ready for that type of commitment, although Liz over at Books and Pieces says that you can probably just read the first 3 and it feels like just a trilogy, so I might give that a try. So I have options, which I like. In any case, this book contains a split narrative between 3 main people in different sections of space. We start with Julie in the prologue, who is trapped in a storage closet in an unknown spaceship. We have Holden, who works on a water hauler and is tasked with checking out a distress call from another ship. And we have Miller, a cop working on a space station. Through these different characters, mainly the 2 men because they trade chapters back and forth after Julie's prologue, we get different points of view of how it is to live in space, both from people who grew up on Earth and those who have never been off their space station. We see different politics overlap and different moral compasses. As you can imagine, given this is a 21-hour long audiobook, a lot happens. This book is filled with action and battle and plans and trying to do what's right and finding out that there's consequences for doing what you think is right and isn't. Also, bodily differences and mannerisms were an interesting part of this book for me, as people who grew up without the constant gravity of a planet have elongated bodies. And those prone to wearing spacesuits nod and shrug with their hands because that's something you can see when you're wearing a spacesuit, and they do it even though they're not wearing a spacesuit. Honestly, I think I will continue the series at least for the next couple of books, but I think that I'm going to try to space them out. Because 21 hours of audiobook is a little much to cram into a typical week for me. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, please let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you next time. Bye!